The time is
6 minutes past 7.
the DL debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's kitchen, and there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Check this.
Well, fáilte gatíine go dtí an DL debate le me se Brendan ó Devenney and Seo a Highland Radio. Folks, welcome to the DL debate. Thanks as ever for tuning in now on Highland Radio or back via the podcast. So I want to say first thank you to the legendary DJ Ivan Borland for the Power Hour Plus. Of course, Donna Marie for the news. Mark Gallagher here is producing this evening, folks. Another packed show in store for you. We're going to talk all matters championship now shortly, and we're going to be joined by two of the greats of the game, the one and only Brendan Kilcoyne, our top pundits in studio. Brendan, how are you this evening?
Top of the evening to you, Brendan. All good.
Top of the evening. And I tell you what, I'm delighted to say, Sports Journalist of the Year, the man of knowledge, don't pay the ferryman, Ryan Ferry is with us as well. Ryan, how are you? A wee round of applause there for Ryan. Yeah,
Man, Ryan.
Thanks very much.
I can hear champagne corks sparking in the background.
Yeah, something like that, Brad. No, the party hats off now. I wouldn't go as long as you would, Brendan, when the parties go.
Oh, hey,
Not many would, Ryan.
That's consigned to history, that, Ryan. That's. I'm not able for it anymore, as I think as everybody knows once you get past
like
this.
The country music stars and the rock stars, Brendan. You know.
Keep jamming. Hey, I'd like to think I helped you out a bit in that, Ryan. Me and you have many a good discussion. That me, Brendan, have you got the word lately? No.
No.
I haven't got any other. I'm sure there must be one coming somewhere. I don't know.
I'm not expecting one, Brendan.
I don't even know who does it, but yeah, we'll take one. Me and Brendan will take one. But Ryan, you help me. Listen, Ryan, in fairness, lad, well done. Hey, listen, a great honour.
Yeah, I was delighted with it, Brendan, to be honest, because it was a very good achievement to get nominated. So we get plenty of good support in the Donegal News, and they give me a bit of freedom, and so it was nice to win it. Yeah,
doing great stuff. Folks, first, just on the show, I just want to say the Masters. I mean, tough luck. It was a tough assignment against a serious Tyrone outfit. They were going for 5 in a row, and they got there 5-10 to 1-9. Eddie Crawford's team, Big Brian captaining Brendan, but it's a serious Tyrone juggernaut they were up against. But listen, they made the final. They give it their all in it, but just beaten by a better side.
Tyrone are awesome at that level, so there and have been, as you say, for a number of years, Brendan. And you know, Donegal, after taking out a few of my own buddies down in Sligo in the semi-final, did a great run all year, so they had and did really well to get to a final. You know, it's tough going. I'll tell you, I wasn't able to play much football after my 40s anyway. I don't know about you, Brendan.
Yeah. And Ryan, listen, still a great run for the lads. It's a great competition, I suppose in many ways, and it must be promoted under the GA umbrella that these lads are still turning out for their county.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And up against a strong Tyrone team, and the Mark Donnelly and Stephen O'Neill and Marty McGrath from Fermanagh playing for them as well. Brendan, you need to throw that in as well. So they're up against it when they're up against a couple of different counties as well. So no, but in fairness to Eddie Crawford and his team, they put in a big effort. There's huge numbers. I think they were telling me last week that maybe 46 were going to training on a Tuesday evening, which is fantastic. You don't have to just give it up just because you're pushing on in years. And there's plenty of very fit men still out there and still playing, and it's great to see. Yeah, indeed. Good words.
And folks, just before we dive into the club championship, great listeners out there. A lot of people coming up, always enjoying the show, and one of them is Carol Harkin down in the Isle of Doe, Clonmany. Carol, thanks for listening in as ever, and of course Bridget down in PJ McDade's as well. Fans of the show, folks, thanks for all the support as ever, folks. Let's get into the weekend. I mean, where do we start? Let's start with Termon St Eunan's, and I want to start with the game. I want to start with the match. And Ryan, interested me and you on, because a few weeks ago we had a bit of a chat about the initial draw, the Group 4 stage, and I was saying to you, I thought it was a good draw for Termon in terms of, right, you're up in senior championship, bring it on. You were thinking more tactical, and look how it's transpired since. They've met again, but this time Dermot coming out on top.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a bad draw for the group phase, but I didn't think it was necessarily a bad draw for the preliminary quarterfinals. I just meant at the time, Brendan, I thought with Termon's progress, winning intermediate, and winning Division 1, that was really important. I felt that they got through to the knockout stages, and I just thought at the time there was probably easier games than St Eunan's to get, and maybe that first game helped them. They were well beaten that day, but there was a couple of bad goals given away, and they probably felt, God, we're not that far off them, and they went out and well, obviously there was a lot went on over the course of extra time, but
yeah.
Like it was a big performance from Termon.
Yeah, Brendan, it was an epic game, and myself and Ryan, I totally understand Ryan's point of view on it. I suppose my kind of attitude towards sport now is always like, bring it on. Whenever that big draw comes out, I always think, and even if I'm technically, as I suppose, the like Eunan's were going in as favourites, I always think, well, here's why we're here. We're here to test ourselves. But I know what Ryan's talking about, that it would have been better for Termon to reach a quarter and test themselves then. But I don't know, I just always have this thing where kind of bring it on a wee bit. But in many ways, as Ryan was saying, that first game defeat when they conceded a couple of bad goals, probably thought, here we have a good opportunity against these boys come the pre-quarter final.
I'm sure that energised them. I'd say they felt hurt leaving that evening, that Eunan's had maybe stolen a victory down there, conceded a couple of soft goals apparently, Brendan, and I've watched Termon a couple of times this year, been very impressed with them. Big men, big young athletic lads all over the pitch, and I was chatting to Mark before we came in. There's a great buzz down in Termon at the minute, so there's a great community effort and a great feel about the club down there. So, and they came in no fear of St Eunan's, and they showed that on Saturday evening, Brendan. Yeah. And by all accounts, were deserving winners on the field of play on the night.
Yeah, and Brian, as Brian was saying, there huge things going on in the club, but and dress rooms and everything's going right, in terms of the up and up. But Eunan's still going in as reigning champions, and Convoy, Ryan, I know it's one day everywhere in Donegal, but it does seem a one day place is having a big effect on different halves of games, and a bit like the previous week as well. With Termon got in 195 up at half time. Were you thinking at that point, Ryan, that was ever going to be enough? I mean, St Eunan's by halfway through the second half were level. At that point, everything's pointing, I suppose, towards Eunan's going on and winning the match.
Yeah, well, like as you mentioned, we've had a couple of terrible weeks of weather, and there are the wind is having a big impact on pretty much every game you're going to, particularly with the 2-pointers in it, Brendan. And unless you're kind of 9 and 10 points up, everything kind of feels like it could be brought back. With not that long of time, it just feels like if you can get a couple of 2-pointers early in the second half, you're going to be right back on top of somebody. So. It was an interesting one. The first half, the Termon's goal, was it fortuitous? Sean Patton off his line, like he was out for the press to kick out before that, and Ryan McFadden went for it. He got a 2-pointer, for booming one way over the bar. Brendan, I suppose you were thinking, oh, it was almost a goal, but I suppose he did get a 2-pointer. It would have only been one more extra point, really. If I had hit the net, but it was, I suppose Termon, they are young, they are athletic, and they probably felt that they would have the legs to stick with St Eunan's in the second half.
Yeah, indeed, and Brendan, there's something about, I suppose, as we're saying there, the fact where once Eunan's got level, I was watching the game on the stream, and I really thought to myself, right, one behind you now, they're going to take over. But the previous week as well, I felt that, and it was Termon who came after Eunan's. In many ways, the games are fairly similar, except the goals maybe Eunan's fortuitous they got the week before weren't there this time. So the game just seemed like it was going to get really tight down the stretch. But you probably felt at that point the experience of Eunan's maybe would start to control the game. So you'd have to say, there's a lot of steel showed by Termon for them to come back in, and particularly with Eunan's 2 up with minutes remaining. You really thought that was an unassailable lead, seeing as they were playing against the Breeze and couldn't get a 2-pointer.
Absolutely. And Brendan, I was down in Ardra, I was covering the Niamh Connell Killybegs game, and I was following it kind of the whole way down, listening to the updates and that, and 7 points down at half time, and knew we weren't playing well. But then 50 minutes in the second half, we're back level, we go in front, and I thought, we should push on now a minute. But the reality is, Brendan, that St Eunan's haven't really clicked at all this year. They haven't been playing well, and when you're put under pressure in a championship match, you know, Brendan, we've been there, and it just doesn't happen if it's not going for you. And I just felt like, you know, that Unions were lacking a bit of bite this year, and losing the likes of Conor Morrison was huge in my mind for them, because he brings that bit of craziness to the dressing room, that bit of drive, and I feel that we were a bit flat, and you know, we paid the ultimate price on Saturday evening, Brendan.
Yeah. And Ryan, listen, not make excuses for Unions. Conor O'Donnell Jr. out, Niall O'Donnell injured as well. Kind of key enough men to go to, but you kind of look at the depth of the Union squad and think, should they been able to deal with that, you know? But certainly there didn't seem to be any time where there looked like there any difference in the team, even though one was intermediate champion and one was the senior champion.
Yeah, but like, you know, people chat about depth, Brendan. You know, depth's there until the day when you need it, and you know, who are you going to call upon then? And you know, I got I heard on Wednesday that Conor O'Donnell had hurt himself in training on Tuesday night, like, and you were thinking straight away, God, like that's a scoring forward gone there. You know, who's going to step in, or who's going to be in his place, you know? And like Niall O'Donnell obviously didn't look like he was anywhere near right at all, Brendan. So no, that's a huge blow, you know, and you know, like it's going to be tough on teams to deal with that, like, you know. And Shane O'Donnell was a big threat, as you would expect him to be, you know. But it's just, you know, and in fairness, Owen McGeehan, I thought had a very good year for St Unions this season, Brendan. I know he was kind of in and out of the team last year, and I thought he was a really good focal point. But yeah, probably just didn't have that attacking artillery that you would think they would have.
Yeah, certainly. And one man I'm always impressed with every time I see Terman is Ricky Gallagher. I just think he seems to be one of them players that you just would want in your team every time you go into battle. And not only what he does defensively, he helped himself to 1-2 as well. And after the match, Dermot Doherty caught up with Ricky.
First of all, congratulations. What an end to a game. What a victory.
Thanks very much. It's nice to kind of get over the line. I'd say most of us thought we were a point down when the final whistle went the first time, so we were kind of in shock, and seeing the two O'Donnells were beside me, they didn't know what was going on either, so just nice to get the win now, but nothing's won yet, I suppose. Yeah,
well listen, that was the equalising score from Aaron Reid. It was the fisted effort that brought the game to extra time, so you weren't aware of what the actual score was. There's no scoreboard here at this venue, obviously, which doesn't help Ricky.
Well, I don't know if Aaron knew or point down or what, but we kind of had 2 goal chances there. That one was flicked on, I think it hit the crossbar. Bobby hit the crossbar about 5 minutes before, so we were probably going into a full time kind of probably feeling like we're unlucky not to get through already, but we grounded out in the end.
Well listen, nobody expected Terman to come here and win this one. Maureen and myself on commentary, we were talking before the game that you guys had nothing to lose. Is that the way you were approaching it today?
No, I wouldn't say so. After the loss last day, you know, we kind of identified a few mistakes. Kind of 2 goals were poor, and 2 black cards were probably black cards. We thought they were harsh, but still black cards, the letter of the law. So we thought if we could have rectified them at home, you know, we were right in the mix, if not probably a better side the last day. So I don't think it came as a shock to us, you know. We felt good. We trained really, really hard the last few weeks. 2 bad losses in the group stage, but after that, you know, we kind of nailed down. Training was very good the last month or so.
Yeah. Well, listen, maybe that's a wee bit unfair of me to say that, but I'm thinking you're coming out today, Ricky, against the reigning champions. You're coming out against the St Unions team, who are blessed with so much talent, so much experience, and know how to win matches like this. So you boys pulled it out of the fire.
I suppose they're probably unlucky not to be also champs last year. Like, we were up at Healy Park when they lost to Kilcoyne last year, and it was very tight. So we knew they were a great side, but kind of we were backing ourselves too. I suppose we're not going to go. You never go out thinking you're going to lose a game. So now we had quiet confidence, just kind of going on the thing a wee bit. So happy enough.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, listen, looking out there, it was a case of the walking wounded. You had players going to, and St Unions, in fairness to them as well, they had players out injured, and you know, it's all about a squad effort, players coming off the bench. But listen, you got to pick yourselves up and go again. Now all of a sudden you are in the last 8 of this competition in a quarter final. So where can Terman go after this, Ricky?
I suppose just go to the next game. You're not looking too far ahead. Kind of recovery tomorrow, and that's the next task. Not thinking about even training next week. Just get down to Port and Blah tomorrow and get the bodies in the water. So that's the next thing.
Yep, that is the next thing, but there is a small question mark there, Brendan Kilcoyne. And before we even get to that, I was just thinking about Terman Ricky Meggs and a couple of defeats there, but you know, very good one over for Masters. You covered that game.
I covered that game, and I was very impressed with them that day. As I mentioned, Brendan, the fitness and physicality, big men around the pitch, and you mentioned Ricky Gallagher. He was phenomenal that evening too, so he was absolutely brilliant. And you know, they're doing this I think Arundini took up Dara McDade and did a pretty good job on Dara. So they're doing this without their main sharpshooter firing on all cylinders basically in that game, Brendan. And, you know, they've really impressed me, so they have the way they've pushed on. They're a young team, really playing well, and you have to give great credit to Keelan McDade for what he's done with this team and taking them. You know, we saw them play last year before St. Eunan's. Ricky referenced it there up in Oma. And, you know, they got off to a flyer of a start. You thought they were unbelievable. And then it didn't go for them. So to recover from that and to be competing against the best that Donegal's senior championship has to offer is very good for them. And, you know, they'll push on. They're going to be a team to deal with in another few years because there's a lot of youth in that squad. So there is.
Yeah, a lot of youth. Ryan, that means I'm coming to you next with the next question, which is this possible appeal. Now, as far as I know, what Eunan's are meeting tonight, Ryan, I don't know what's going to happen in there. What's your feeling on what happened at the end of the match in terms of the very last score for Termon?
What's my feeling on it? Well, look, I suppose at the end of the day, there's a player coming off the pitch, and you know the play should be stopped until you know the player is off the pitch and somebody else is on. Now it's deep into extra time, tensions are high, everybody's wrecked, even you know mentally and physically, you know. So there is a lot going on. It's probably just you know it's one of those. It's an error that's been made, you know, probably by the officials. Maybe not even a huge error at that time. Maybe it doesn't even feel like that. Like it's a huge thing at the time, and then it's you know it becomes a big thing after the match. You know, so listen, I don't know. I'm sure you have sources closer to the Eunan's camp than I would have, Brendan, on what they'll do. Probably not an easy thing to decide. I don't know. Is it a club committee decision? Is it management? Is it players that do this? You've also got the fact that you know your two neighbouring clubs. So yeah, a lot to weigh up, I would say.
Brendan, a lot to weigh up. You know, we were speaking about this earlier. Like no one likes any of this in terms of you know teams win and lose games. Not now. The thing is, like I look at them and again, listen, I'm doing the deal debate for 5 years now. Yeah. I only care. Listen, it's not to me in terms of the outcome of this. I just think, right, was there an indiscretion? Was that player involved in the play? You know, I spoke to the defender that was there. He said he was watching him. He thought he was in the play. So you can't rule out the fact that he might have got across and got. So there is a question mark there. And this isn't anything about sour grapes or winning or losing. This is, was there a breach of the rules? Which there definitely was. This wasn't Termon's fault, really. The player was on his way off the pitch. It was the official's fault. All right. Yeah. So at that point, when Eunan's complained to Mark Brown, he should have went to his linesman and said, was that player on the pitch? Take the ball back, restart the play, give the ball back to Termon and play it again. That's what should have happened. Yeah. Now we're in this weird thing of, like, nobody wants to be the team that's objecting, you know, and even if they did object, Brian, and Ryan's asking there, listen, it'll be the Union senior team that'll decide that. They'll take it back to the club, should that want to be, let's say, you know, even at that, you can get a fine, as we've seen with the penalty debacle between Kilcoyne and Niamh Conlon a few years ago. It's not to say you'll get a replay. Yeah. So it's a fine, a replay, or Eunan's would be given the game if it was held up. Now, there's a lot of ifs and buts in there, but just the incident itself, Brendan, what did you make of it? Yeah,
and again, as I say, I wasn't there, Brendan, but I watched it a few times, so I watched it back, and I do feel that John James Sweeney that was coming off, I think it was Enda McCormick went on, John James Sweeney was coming off, and there's no doubt about it, like he was in the St. Eunan's defensive arc, so he was. So obviously he was going to be picked up by a player. You don't leave a player sitting in there at that stage or any stage of a game without picking them up. So I think it did impact. That said, Brendan, to me, it happened, and you're correct. It was a problem with the officials. It's not Termon's fault. It's not St. Eunan's fault. I think St. Eunan's had the chance to win the game in the field of play anyway, Brendan. Yeah. Prior to that, we spoke always that they were, and I would be against appealing it. I would, for the integrity of the competition, I would be against it personally. But that doesn't mean to say I'm not involved with the team. So it's easy for me to say that. I get you. I'm not in the dressing room. I don't feel the pain that the lads have been training all year. So I get, you know, where they're coming from on it. But for me, Termon, you know, watching it back, were the better team in the evening, showed more desire, showed more want, showed more will, and showed more, you know, composure coming down the final straight to go and win the game when it was there to be won. We had the opportunity as St. Eunan's to do that, and we didn't do enough in the field of play, Brendan. So to me, it's a case of let it go. Yeah.
Ryan, do you think these such incidents should be up to, like I was talking earlier, I was on with Greg and just saying that I don't think these answers should be up to unions to come on to do the objection. The officials obviously have done something wrong. Should it not be up to a county board or a CCC or someone to adjudicate on whether this is an issue that was missed on the and whether it's serious enough to be pursued further? Would that not be the right, rather than clubs creating what could be bad blood, which will go down for years? And as Brendan said, it's not something that any players in the field of play ever like or to be involved in.
Yeah, that's it. I think it definitely probably shouldn't be up to the clubs to decide it. But it is a tricky one. It's the time of the game that it happens at. If it happens in the first half after 15 minutes, is it as big of an issue? I don't know. It is a tough one. As Brendan says, you've players in there, and they're probably going to gym a couple of times in the evening or a couple of times a week. They're training. Some of them are living away and they're coming down the road, so they're investing a lot into it. And if they feel they've been hard done by, maybe they'll want to press the matter. But yeah, I probably do think maybe it should be on the CCC or the county board or some faction there to maybe look into it rather than either of the clubs have to be bringing it up.
Yeah, and Brendan, really, I suppose you look at it, and again, I know what I gave off the refs a lot when I was playing, and I feel bad about that now. I do, honestly. I do. So,
yeah, I get you.
Listen, I always was like, but when I see refereeing now, when you get, I think when you get older and you look at it, and particularly if you've ever refed an in-house game in your own club, I mean, as Ryan was saying there is so much going on around what's happening there, and. It's so hard because there's so many things going on. And listen, referees, in terms of handling everything, does this just go down to an error on the referee's part? Surely you can't say whether it affected the player or not. But really, as you said, is there enough grounds for that to be the thing? And as you said, on a 1 point game, you see, it does leave that question mark there. But I'm just saying, it was a referee's error. Very hard to say either way. So is that grounds enough to get a whole saga going? It's a very difficult one for.
There may be an argument. There may be an argument, Brendan, for what you say, to set up a committee in a county for these kind of objections, because they're arising all over the county. There's a couple of situations where 2 points have been awarded for well inside the arc, and there's appeals down in Mayo for over a game, and so there is a regular thing here. So I think it's something that the GA may look at, to create up an independent body within each county to look at these situations, be it the CCC or members of the CCC or how many C's you have and kind of thing, something like that. But I don't think it shouldn't be, you're 100% right, Brian, it shouldn't be left on the clubs to pursue this. They should be able to say, listen, this happened, make an adjudication on it, and that the clubs will just agree to whatever adjudication is made on it,
Yeah. Listen, 100%, lads, we'll move on to the other games, and spare a thought for Martin Regan, and he's probably watching tapes tonight of Terman, and you could just watch the two games. You'll see the two teams playing. Listen, that's who they're lined up against. It doesn't get any easier. Ryan, just on the men from Niamh Connolly, had an iffy enough group phase. A lot of people were looking at them saying they haven't hit form yet. Was that form hitting, do you think, against Killybegs in their 3-15-2-10 victory? It certainly looked more like the Niamh Connolly of old.
Yeah, they were very impressive, Brendan, weren't they? Consider they give away a couple of bad goals that maybe you wouldn't expect them to do every week. They ran out good winners. Definitely the younger players seem to be really finding it. Shea Malone, very impressive again the last day, so have a huge amount of options. A wee bit perhaps like the St. Eunice thing, you've been kind of waiting for it to click. So is that the performance that pushes them on now? Finbar Rorty, really, really impressive, driving forward. Kieran Gallagher's having a massive championship. Really looks the part, one of the best midfielders in the county. He's had a huge impact. Ethan O'Donnell's getting back up to speed. O'Magedigan's a threat inside. So yeah, Niamh Connell are going to have a big say in this championship yet.
Yeah, certainly. And those players that Ryan mentioned, there's a bereft of talent there. But they seem to be playing a bit beneath themselves in terms of what we were expecting from that group. But you're just looking, and we kind of felt, right, once it gets to knockout, you're going to see a bit of a different team. And And Ryan's, of all those players like Ryan's mentioned there, the big geller at midfield, like he is. And you look at Brendan, even yesterday's games, particularly the second game we were covering, the amount of, say, swinging on the kickouts, that you have. So when you have someone with his presence out in the midfield, it's such an extra. Now that Kieran Thompson isn't there, but certainly already now you'd say, listen, it's a difficult assignment for Terman going into this game, because I think Niamh Conall will be probably a couple of notches up from what they made against St Eunan's.
Yeah, definitely. And, we all have the same question about Niamh Conall. I've seen them 2 or 3 times coming into last week, and I was down in Ardra, and I left hugely impressed with Niamh Conall after the performance they put in all over the field. Brian, Ryan was referenced big Kieran Gallagher in the middle of the field there. Like, for a big man, he's a huge skill level too. Technically, he's very good, and his fitness level looks better than I've ever seen him look before, because I know he had a couple of years out, but he never looked totally tuned in, but he looks tuned in. He looks on it this year, so he does. And young Shane Malone, really impressive, got the 2 goals, really impressive inside in the corner. But it's all over the field. Kevin McGetty, and like, he's awesome. He just covers every blade of grass every day, so he does. Same with Finbar Rorty. He's tackling ferociously at the back, and next thing he's coming up and supporting the attack and getting off the shoulder and making these runs. And then you have Owen McGetty, and while he's not fully firing on all cylinders yet, you can see that he's about to bubble. Like, he's just getting better and better all the time, so he is. And obviously Ethan O'Donnell back. Oren Doherty was brilliant again the last night, so he was. They're solid at the back. Now, they did concede a couple of bad goals. Like, the first one was a bit of a fluke kind of thing, in that it was a high ball in. Huey was jostling with AJ, and then Steve McGrath decided to come out and get involved with Jossa, and next thing the ball went in for back of the net, and Rory Coyler got another goal after about 20 minutes then, so he did for Killybegs, put them back. But Niamh Conall seemed to be able to press the button, and when they did, they were pretty awesome, Brendan, so they were very, very impressive.
Ryan, but Killybegs, maybe, like a lot of teams in Donegal, they seem to be, getting, they're moving up the gears a bit anyway, Ryan. They're becoming more competitive. Certainly Bona doing a good job down there. Like, they look like they've a danger element to them as well, and certainly they didn't go down without a fight.
No, they definitely did battle. They had a good championship in general, good wins over Terman and Rua. I seen them early on in the league, Brendan. And obviously they didn't have Hugh or Owen Ban, and Evan Broderick was away, and they just looked off the pace. I know Jack McSherry is working away as well, and it's probably tough to keep it going. Early in the season, and that's probably a factor that you're seeing with a lot of teams. Probably Niamh Clumber, another one of those, Bren. And is it almost like 2 separate seasons now that just get through the league and then really lift it for the championship then, so yeah, like likes of Huey has had a really impressive, like, playing kind of high up the field the last couple of weeks. So I think they'll probably be a wee bit disappointed. They weren't a bit closer to Niamh Conall. I think they would have fancied to be they were underdogs obviously, but I think they probably would have thought they maybe would have been a wee bit closer on the night.
Yeah. And Brendan, looking into this game, Terman, Niamh Conall now, is the week on week thing now? I suppose you have this massive win over Eunan's, and listen, straight down back focus. Obviously you have the thing in the background about a potential objection, whether it happens or not, but get focused. You're playing Niamh Conall, coming off the back of a great win. So listen, it's thick and fast. It's a bit too fast in terms of these big games, but would be better building up to them.
You would like a build up, and particularly for Terman, who after recording a huge victory against the county champions, and they don't really get time to enjoy it. And we talked about this during the summer too with Donegal, like coming off the back of a big win and you're out again the following week, so you don't really get your rehab, and you're getting injuries recovered and that kind of thing to get ready for next week. And most of all, you're getting your mindset. You're getting the mindset of the team, and that'll be Keelan McDade's main thing this week, getting the mindset right. We've taken St. Eunan's. Why should we fear Niamh Conall? Why should we go down? Why would we have any fear going in against them? And it's going to be a big ask for them. Of course it's going to be a big ask for them, but they have to go for it. They have to go for it. Like there was mentioned, you always have something to lose in the championship game. You always have something to lose, but you go down there and throw everything at it, and you never know what's going to happen, as opposed to maybe trying to be a bit, hold back a bit, or a bit conservative is the word.
It doesn't work anymore.
No, it doesn't.
In the new rules, you gotta go for it.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose in sticky games now they come very close, and then they did come through another one. Ryan, McCool's Downings there. Yesterday, McCool's doing their usual gig of dancing into a big lead and then getting pulled back. They don't make it easy for Mr. Wilson on the sideline.
No, they're not, like, but I suppose they're through to the next round. You know, they fell at the preliminary quarterfinals last year, I'm pretty sure, Brendan. So, you know, to get through to the quarterfinals, they'll be happy. You know, obviously the Oshin, you know, wasn't available. You know, so that was that was going to be huge, and you know, it's going to. I'm sure he's their talisman up front, and yeah, they're used to not playing without him in the league, but it's different in the championship, you know. And yeah, Downers came back well at them, but you know, McCool's weathered the storm, and you know they'll be eyeing up a semi-final spot now.
Yeah, they will indeed. And Brendan, were you impressed with the way towards the end of the match? I know they were 8 points up, and as we are saying, Ryan was mentioned earlier, teams get pulled back very quickly from that. There was real. I mean, you got to really admire Downings. You know, again, we're talking about Killybegs and different teams. You're looking at the level of coaching going on and the application. You know, first class. You'd have to say they're right up there. I mean, I've seen Downings play a few times. You know, competitive against Dunlow, obviously. Same with Neve Connell. You know, right, went down and beat Kilcar through to the semi. So, you know, it's been a brilliant season for them, and you know, real kind of sucker points. They were trying to get back that level point, and McCool's holding the ball, and eventually Chad McSorley kind of lost the ball. It ran away from him, and then he banged it into the back of the net. It was a cruel enough finish, taking nothing away from McCool's on Downings.
Hugely brave performance from Downings. That needs to be said first. And talk about, you know, maximising your resources. Maxie and Barney and Cookie, like, they've done a fantastic job down there, so they have, like, you know, and they really have. And that's not bigging them up or anything like that. That's the reality. They really showed great. But for me, McCool's, you know, they play some of the best football. It's absolutely a joy to watch when they're on it. When they're on it, they play a joy to watch. My one concern for them, now Luke Gavigan started really, really well in the first half yesterday, dominated the middle third, so he did for 20 minutes. My one concern for them, though, is the lack of physicality. And if you go back to when Guido beat them last year out in the park, it was that lack of physicality. And now they've lost Oisín Gallen. Kevin McCormick, who's a fantastic little player inside too, hamstring, have to be doubtful for next week. So, you know, they're huge losses, but like when you see McGinty, Conor McGinty at full flow, Sean Martin at full flow, Jamie Keegan, these guys, they're lovely footballers and they play really, really well. And some of the scoring that they did yesterday was just top notch, so it was. So I would love to see them go on. Rory Callahan did a brilliant job, the cornerback, on Paddy McElwee, like really restricted him. Paddy did get a few shots off, he just had an off day, it wasn't happening for him. And I suppose Downings would have been looking for Johnny McGrady and Paddy McElwee to kind of be the forefront of their attack, and they were well shut down. Gary Wilson had worked on that, they were well shut down, so they were. But McCool's, you know, they're going into a semi-final now, so they are against St. Michael's, and they've every chance. Yeah, it's a hard one to call, and again it comes back to my concern about their lacking maybe a bit of physicality around the middle kind of thing, you know, that because St. Michael's are a big strong team, so they are, you know, they've a lot of big artillery, and they're playing, but St. Michael's have been playing well. Now, interestingly, I was down at the McCool's game early on, the opener in the championship, and McCool's blew them away. They were 12 points up with 6 or 7 minutes to go, and Michael suddenly turned on the power, and McCool's were lucky to get away. They were very lucky to get out of it, so they were that day. So that'll be a really hard to call which way it's going to go, but it's going to be a cracker of a game. And I suppose the big question is, can McCool's get either Farah, Oisín Gallen or Kevin McCormick back on the pitch to give them a better chance up front? Yeah,
that's a huge thing now, Ryan, week on week, to get these guys back, because your key men, no more, you know, we'll come to it now, than the likes of, you know, Michael Murphy missing for Glenn. I know he was long term, but you know, when your main men aren't in there, it changes the whole dynamics of the game. And again, that's such a hard game to call, McCool St. Michael's. And you know, as Brendan says, losing that opening game, you're always thinking that opening game, you maybe read too much in it. Since then, you know, they've been playing good stuff. No more than that brilliant victory down in Neve Connell. So, listen, two teams will think, you know, they deserve to be like at a semi-final. Ryan, very real 50-50 one.
Yeah, and you're right about the injuries, Brendan, and it is one of those, and you know, it's quite often not fair. You know, like you'll see some teams are struggling badly with injuries, and other teams can get their pretty much the strongest side out. Like, and if you're one of those teams that can get their strongest side out, you've got to make the most of it, because you don't know what's going to happen. You mightn't be so lucky the following year. And yeah, like I remember watching the first game at the stream, and you know, McCool's were well up in that game. St. Michael's missed a couple of goal chances, I think I'm right, and Michael Langan didn't play. So obviously Michael Langan is going to be a big factor. You're probably expecting Joe Boyle maybe to shadow him and see if he can nullify his influence. And the other side of it is going to be the weather. If the weather continues like this, St Michael's have a lot of players in their 30s. They're an experienced team, a seasoned team. They're strong in the tackle. That they know what they're about. So it's if we continue to have wet and windy weather, you'd be thinking that St Michael's. But if these McCool's lads can get the chance to open up, they've huge pace and athleticism.
Yeah. Two teams have been knocking on the door certainly the last couple of years. Folks, listen, great roundup. After the break, we're going to come back. We're going to talk a bit more for Masters and Glen and the other matches to come, and a bit on the intermediate as well. Back after these.
When it comes to a great deal, Virgin Mobile doesn't play around. Introducing our new SIM plan, price locked at €15 a month for life, with unlimited data, calls and texts, and 99% coverage. Switch today at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media, it's playtime.
T's and C's apply. €15 per month locked in while a Virgin Mobile customer. 12-month contract. Includes unlimited data, standard calls and text to all Irish networks. Offer ends October 1st. See virginmedia.ie.
Ah, that's the sound of Calor. Of cosy movie nights in. Shove over. Of the post-match get the cold out of your showers. A fry-up on a Sunday morning. It's the sound of homes running on easy, efficient energy. And right now, homes not on the gas network can get a free boiler by switching from oil to Calor gas for their home energy and heating. So every day sounds a little more like this. Nice and toasty in here. Calor, the energy that connects us. Terms and conditions apply. See calorgas.ie for details.
Summer is coming to an end and the weather is starting to change. Spruce up your home for autumn with furniture and accessories from our wide selection. Yisk,
Scandinavian Sleeping and Living.
At FBD Insurance, we've been supporting businesses across Donegal, Sligo and beyond for over 50 years. Pop into your local insurance experts in the FBD branch on Main Street, Letterkenny, or contact us on 074 912 6299 and see how we can support your business today. Open from 9:30am to 5pm Monday to Friday. FBD Insurance. Support. It's what we do. Business insurance is underwritten by FBD Insurance plc. FBD Insurance Group Limited, trading as FBD Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9pm daily in Sara's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, welcome back. As ever, thank you to Sister Sara's for their ongoing support of the show and everybody that helps out in the show. Thank you so much, folks. We're continuing now. Brendan, we're just talking there off mic about the managements, and in a time where the GA is trying to straighten out the money merry-go-round, it isn't the same. Certain clubs are doing it, but there's loads. The majority aren't.
No, all 8 teams in the quarterfinals, homegrown managers, which is great to see. It's great to see young fellas and boys coming through and taking on their own clubs. And I think even if you go through the 4 teams that were eliminated in the prelims, I think that they're all homegrown too, so it is good to see. So it is, Brendan, and management is a tough gig, Brendan. Managing is a tough gig for anyone to take on, expectation levels, etc., within different clubs, and to see lads taking it on is encouraging. So it is.
Yeah, massive stuff. And Ryan, it's good for the future of the game, because as we're complimenting the coaching goes on, it's great that it's homegrown guys that are doing it, because I suppose they have the right attitude of the club in mind, and they're not there just for a year or two, and they're not like picking up big money, which some people, leaves a bad taste in some people's mouth, and it's a bit unfair, I suppose, in terms of the level playing field that we're always looking to have in the GA.
Yeah, but even in terms of for our county teams going forward, minor and under 20, like you like to think people are taking on club jobs and maybe be ambitious, that maybe it might lead to something down the line, and that coach education and all the rest of it, Brendan, and spreading the awareness and the expertise and helping clubs develop. And there's huge amount of work and effort goes into it, and energy, and with analysis and all the rest of it at the minute, Brendan. And teams are leaving no stone unturned.
Yeah, I remember my cousin up in Monaghan, he was coaching teams, and he was saying I go to my own team, I don't get paid. He said, I went up the road 15 miles across the border in Derman. I got 25 grand a year. It was
madness.
Like, figure that out. And I was like, well, that's just the way of the world, And listen, we'll not get into this. That's a deep conversation for now. Brendan, Four Masters, Glen, yesterday. This Four Masters team that have been coming and they're knocking on the door. They're still winning nearly every underage competition. I see now they are having a lot of battles with actually Glen in a lot of those. So there's a lot of good working on in Glen underage. But listen, it was a tight tussle there yesterday. Just maybe that wee bit of extra brilliance from the inside line of the forward line of Four Masters was just maybe the key in the end.
Yeah, the two cars were phenomenal. Turlock and Senan. I think Senan got 5 points, Turlock 1-2, and there's so much talent throughout the whole way through that. I thought the Reid brothers, in particular Connor, was really, really good for Four Masters yesterday, and Callum McRae at the back. Conor McCahill, the goal early on, Brett, it was phenomenal. You just love to see football that like that. Yeah, that just puts the hair stand. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. But I think we spoke about Down into Brave. What a brave performance that was from Glen Swilly. They just kept coming back. They wouldn't go away. And poor Donald Gallagher was nearly cutting two at one stage and hobbling on one leg and getting tackles in, still getting up the field to get another score. And it was brilliant. It was really enjoyable game of football to watch. So it was, and Four Masters just had that extra bit of quality. So they had that was enough to see them over the line. And obviously didn't mention even Kevin Muldoon there. What a quality player he is. Brilliant. And there's more to come from him. I believe. I believe there is more to come from him. So they're going to be happy going into a quarter final now, and they totally deserve to be there. Are they ready to go the whole way? That remains to be seen, but they're going to be very close, Brendan.
Yeah. Listen, Muldoon's 2.45s a kick word.
He just clips them.
It looks so easy. We keep talking about the I'm not a golfer myself, but the wee pitch, it just made it look like it's a tap over.
Players like that, they just annoy me, Brendan, a bit because you're trying to you're standing over 45 and you're trying to.
You can't reach.
Yeah.
No, and Ryan, looking at it, again, Brendan's mentioned. Gary McFadden, what a servant he's been in the Glen, as well. With the 6 points and some belter 2 pointers, and you got the feeling at times, Glen Swilly were clinging on them, but then they would take control of the game as well. It was an unbelievable effort, and again, missing, of course, the main man himself. We all know what Michael Murphy is to Donegal. Just imagine what he would have been to Glen in that game yesterday.
Yeah, he was a huge loss, and you have to hand it to Gary. I think he was playing. Was it 20 years ago they won the intermediate? I'm pretty sure he was playing back then. So he's been a great servant to Glen Swilly, and he gives them that bit of experience, and they need it because there's a lot of young players in it. We 18, 19-year-olds in their team, and I'm sure that they'll be probably disappointed that they're out of the championship today, and that they didn't get that chance to have Murphy, because he played so well for Donegal during the year, and I'm sure that the players were going up to Clones and Croke Park just waiting for the chance to get to play with him, and it just didn't play out this year, and that's the unfortunate thing for them. But they've a very young team, and they've more players on the way, and they'll come back again from this.
Yeah, no doubt, and they will. Brian, just the contrast in styles yesterday in terms of Four Masters were going after the ball, and Glen Swilly more dropping on the zone, particularly in the first half. They did come out a bit in the second half, changed it up a wee bit. In fairness, it looked like they had a word about that, because Four Masters were so dangerous. They were able to drop the shoulder. Had so many players you could beat. You were kind of sitting nearly inviting trouble. I always think in the modern game now that you should at least at times go after the ball, because if you try and tackle around the midfield, if somebody gets away, you should have a second chomp at it. Whereas there was times there Four Masters were just easily going by the Glen Swilly lads in the first half. But there certainly was a change in tactics. And as you said, no want of effort from the Glen men. There was a real, I suppose you came around about the real knockout championship feel to the game, and it was really exciting knife edge on down to them last 3 points that Four Masters got at the end.
Yeah, definitely, Brendan, and huge contrast in styles, and I noticed that in a couple of the games this weekend. Some teams were looking to really to kick an awful lot, kind of thing, to kick it inside and test the full back line, and but Glen Swilly, they just probably, obviously Michael is such a huge player for them, and not having him. Now, listen, it's all in hindsight. It doesn't matter now because they're out, sort of thing. But it's a huge loss. Like, and you have to think that if he was there, what course would the game have taken, Brendan? But I think, you know, if that Four Masters had that little bit extra in them, they just showed a wee bit of lack of experience, maybe at certain stages in the game where they kind of gave control or least control of the game kind of thing to Glenswilly. And Glenswilly are so smart in these situations, Brendan. We've seen them down through the years. They know how to control a game. They know how to get in your face and to disrupt the opposition. And they did that brilliantly yesterday to come back within a hair's breadth of getting over the line.
Yeah. And right now, setting up Dunloe, they drew just a couple of weeks ago. It was a late 2-pointer that equalised for Dunloe, which actually put Newlands out of the automatic qualification. So listen, Ryan, that's set up again. So many of these games are going to be hard to call. That's another 50-50.
Yeah, it really is. And you know what? I have a bit of a fancy for Dunloe this year. I think that they take a lot of boxes, Brendan, but this is going to be a really tough game for them. Like, because Four Masters are coming with huge energy. You know, they're going well. They're confident. As you mentioned, McCahill earlier on. Like, you know, we in Donegal we don't bring through a lot of players that are comfortable playing close to goal, and he's one of them, and he knows where the net is. You know, so you know, it's going to be a tough one for Dunloe. But I think if Dunloe can keep out the goals, you know, keep things tight, you know, and like Glenswilly did okay in the midfield battle with Four Masters, particularly in the second half. I think Dunloe will maybe think that's maybe a sector they can get on top on.
Yeah, certainly. And Brendan, the last one, of course, Kilcar Gweedore. Gweedore looked very impressive to me. You know, well coached, solid, big team. You know, the hard team to break down. Like, a lot of options for him, a lot of scoring threats as well. And of course, Kilcar, who we were just thinking that this, particularly with their league form, you know, looked like they were going to get relegated. They come with that big run at the end, 5 in a row. They beat Union's on opening day, and maybe Union's obviously missing a few, but still, the Downing's defeat. Then you're like, right, what's going on, Kilcar? And then that unbelievable performance.
No,
you know,
yeah.
The four.
And again, I was down Kilcar that evening, so I was, and they were absolutely brilliant. Kilcar were absolutely brilliant that evening, but it has to be with the proviso that Glenswilly kind of knew their fate before the ball was thrown in, and were they throwing everything at it, or were they keeping themselves for yesterday? Right. So there was that provision. But Kilcar were really good, looked really sharp, looked really on it. Ryan McHugh's playing really well, Brian O'Donnell playing, Ryan McShane, the McLean brothers, and obviously the two McBreartys inside. If they can get Owen McHugh back on the field, they will be a queer detail. So they will. I haven't seen Gweedore play in the championship this year, but they seem to be going really well, and I'm long enough around the tooth to never discount Gweedore.
Never. Good man, Brendan. Listen, that's another fascinating encounter. Ryan, intermediate, it's catching fire. Red Hughes going well. Just got across the line against Bundoran. Steve McMenamin flying. Niamh Worra beating the homeboys there. Intermediate's hot and upward, semi-final stage, Ryan.
Yeah, I was at Niamh Columba and Buncrana yesterday.
That sounded so much.
It was an absolute cracker, so it was. Niamh Columba made hard work of it because they were the better team, but Keelan McGonigal and Kevin Jordan got a couple of 2-pointers for Buncrana, brought them right in it. They had the breeze, they were a point up, and you were thinking they were going to take it, and Niamh Columba were going to fall short again, but Niamh Columba got a second win later on. They got a great goal from Paddy Byrne and kicked 2 more points, and you know they're definitely a mobilised outfit this year, and they're going to take a bit of stopping. I was at Niamh Worra and Milford as well, and it was Christmas Day for Niamh Worra. There was a lot of gifts being handed out by Milford, Brendan. It did right. 3 breaches, and there was a 2-pointer brought up for descent as well. But Niamh Worra, more probably seasoned physical team, and well worth their victory, and also had a wee look at Malin and Muff on the stream, Brendan. Another cracking game, and could have went either way, and a couple of goals from Finn Ward and Josh Conlon in extra time did it for Malin. So they played Niamh Worra now this weekend, and that should be a cracking game.
Yeah, a couple of brilliant games to come up there, and you know, just tracking Niamh Columba through the championship, they were just shooting the lights out. And I've seen them do it other years as well, Brendan. Again, goals to the fore there. I mean, for Buncrana had hit the lead on 60 minutes, but as Ryan was saying there, Paddy Byrne and an extra couple of scores chipping on. But the intermediate championship, Brendan, real competitiveness in there, and some great football matches, and it's great as well. as Ryan was saying, that the streaming isn't just doing senior, they're doing those games as well. Me and Ocean did the Patrick Buncrana a couple of weeks ago. It's great to see.
Yeah, it is, and there, you know, say some fantastic football available at that level. I suppose the disappointing thing is that there's so many games going on, Brendan, that you can't get around to get to some of these games. You know,
yes,
you know
yes,
that you want to get. I'd love to go and watch that. We'll say Malin. Nave Porrick game, it sounded like a clinker like kind of thing, you know, and we followed Muff the or Nave Porrick the whole way through Ulster last year, Brendan, and we had great times following them, and you just love to sit down and watch them now to see how they've developed and where they've at, but there's too many games on, you can't be everywhere.
You know, I met a Tyrone man who was out for lunch today in the Mount Errigal in the Tyrone bush. Did you see this game? He's like, say, sir, I have enough on the plate here, Donegal. I did flick on. I did watch Errigal.
The Tyrone Championship looks mental. Like.
I know, this was Thursday night, and I was chatting to Michael McMullen. We're talking about doing a hat across Tyrone and Derry. I said, Mal, I'll tell you what it is now. They're definitely this week. I said, there actually is no time. As there isn't, as we're down to the last couple of minutes. Ryan, can you pick a couple of finalists in the intermediate there? Who do you fancy to make it through the semis?
I probably think it's going to be a Niamh Columba, Niamh Mora final.
Yes. Yeah, and that would be a cracker as well.
Oh, I think that would be a really good game if it came to it. Like, but
Red Hughes have already beaten Niamh Mora in the earlier group stages, didn't they? And so the Red Hughes are really building up as well. Is this new territory for them, Ryan?
Yeah, I should know off the top of my head, but I don't, Brendan, when last time they were at this stage, you know. But you know, Darren O'Leary and Mark O'Sullivan have come in this year, Brendan. They've got, you know, a lot. They've really brought things on, and there's always been good players, and Red Hughes just haven't always had the right maybe application. But you know, Steve McMenamin's driving them forward, Johnny Carlin, Liam Carlin. So yeah, they're going up against Niamh Columba, and Niamh Columba, you know, look like men on a mission, so they'll do well to come through that one.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in recent times, of course, the Red Hughes men have been in county finals and everything else, and won senior league titles and that. So listen, great for them, folks.
The great Marty Carlin.
And Tara Lynch, of course.
Yes,
they took him in from a wee transfer in from Tyrone. You need no transfer, Brendan, you know. But listen, Ryan Ferry, the main man, the greatest sports journalist of his generation. Thank you. Was that the title? That's what I'll give you tonight. Ryan, listen, thanks so much, sir, as ever, for your contribution. And Brendan Kilcoyne as well. Thank you very much for producing this evening, and I will speak to you all next week. Stay tuned, of course, for the excellent Monday night sessions.